Thank you very much, Stuart, and I certainly want to give my best to Doug, because the two of you are like Mutt and Jeff, so it's fun to have. And I want to thank certainly Angela Harden and Vincent Boudreau and all the folks from the Internet Society. Joel in the back, I feel like we grew up together. He's sitting back there, but he's like the YouTube specialty. He's so old that he comes before YouTube, just so you know. This is a really important topic, and I'm going to try to just be a little bit scattered, but some of the many topics that we've been working on. Interestingly enough, I would sort of put under digital divide a little bit what goes on at the Department of Education. We obviously have 1.1 million students. Just today, something that I've been working on for 10 years has come to a positive end, which is the following. It's very nuanced, but important. So every elected official, as you know, city mayor, city council, borough presidents on the city level allocates what we call Reso A money. It's basically capital money. We give it to CUNY, parks, and so on. And in the past, for technology to the schools, there was always a law. It was called Directive 10. It was a directive, not an actual law, but it felt like it. And it basically said that if you're going to give capital money to anything, it has to have a shelf life of more than 5 years, which a park does and a building does. And it has to be networked if it's technology. Well, that was ridiculous, because then all we could do for the students in the schools, well, they're carts, which if you have children or grandchildren, you know that they're always pushing the cart out of the closet. Because Directive 10 said it had to be networked and it had to be shelf life of 5 years. Well, just today, and I've been bothering the controller of the city of New York, Scott Stringer, to get rid of the stupid Directive 10 so that we could buy laptops like the charter school kids have, buy Chromes, and do some cloud computing. Because what it means is you can take the 1.1 million students where we have funding for them and bring them into the current century in terms of what is available to them. So just today, he got rid of that stupid Directive 10. And it's not like a big deal, but it's something that will make a difference for young people in the schools. And just, I would say in the last year or so, much thanks to Hunter College and President Rabb, the Department of Education in the past, if you were a teacher, biology, English, you might teach computer science, but there wasn't a computer science degree. And so you were, some of you teachers know, so-called out of license. Well, last year, much thanks to the CUNY system advocating, President Rabb from Hunter in particular, that is now a license. So now we have computer teachers and we have laptops. Let's go for it. So I mention that because the Department of Education needs to get current. I know that City University is in many cases, but goodness knows DOE needs to. Second issue is, we are all working hard in terms of communities to make sure that there's broadband connection, because that's what we need. And those of you who are speaking later know better than I do. But 13% of Americans nationwide don't have internet access. It might be because the last mile isn't there in terms of the rural areas, or in my case, or many cases, it's expensive. So you don't have internet because it's too expensive. And 33% of seniors don't even use the internet. Not the seniors in this room, but generally. I know that there are groups like Oates and others that are trying to address this. That population must get support. And I know that it is something that we're all working on. Now, what's also happening is this 5G. 5G would just be fast, really, really fast. We're not even really up to date on 4G, but there's a lot of push on 5G. It's an interesting Columbia, CCNY, Rutgers, NYU, MIT. Columbia University, to their credit, got a grant from the National Science Foundation. Very competitive grant. One went to Salt Lake, one went to here in Harlem. And as we speak, this lab at Columbia University is looking what would 5G look like in Harlem. And they're working with some of the schools. They're working with the university here. Nobody else is doing this except goodness knows who in Salt Lake City, where I've never been. But we here in Harlem are getting this kind of benefit. And actually, when I was at a national tech conference recently, lots of people are talking about what will come out of this lab. Because if we have 5G, and I don't know that we ever will in my lifetime, then little antennas are going to have to be all over the place in order to capture the internet and the information. So, of course, we may not want them all over the place, lamp posts, top of parks, buildings, and so on. Columbia is using their buildings and their community to put the little antennas around to see how it works. So I just mentioned that because that is part of access. But 5G could make access very, very accessible. So that's something else that we're working on. We're also working on something called NYC Mesh. I don't know that this is perfect, but one of the issues with the internet is it's expensive. If you have it in your home, it's expensive. And so the question is whether something called NYC Mesh, which is an open, resilient, and neutral network, sometimes $20 a month, sometimes free. And what it is a community-owned internet service. It doesn't steal your data like some of the larger companies. It provides high-speed access. It competes with the larger internet companies, and sometimes they ask for the $20 a month. I mention this because it is fast. We have it at our office near City Hall, and it has great potential. Also, we are working on this issue of capturing data. This is another, I would say, access issue, because what we want to do is how can we use the internet to make people's lives better? That's really why we're all doing this. We're not doing it just so we can look at pictures or go to Instagram or so on. We want to make lives better. And so something called the Things Network, New York, is trying to do that. Example, we will take enabled sensors, they're called LORAN, and we will measure the air quality in residential buildings. And in talking to the president, I note that the university here is doing something similar, trying to figure out what is the efficiency of buildings. Same idea. We're doing it for quality. We want to know, particularly at grant houses, whether or not there's mold, whether or not the air is healthy, whether or not there's too much dust. What is it that's creating the challenges, particularly where people have health issues? Sensors working under the Things Network can measure the organic compounds, humidity, heat, and all the particulate matter, sending the data, this is really important, real time to monitors that would be in our office or anybody else's office. Because what the issue is you don't want to know in a month from now that the air was terrible and that you're getting sick. You want to know right now. And we hear this constantly from people who live near construction sites. Manhattan feels like it's under construction. Everywhere you look, construction, construction. And the question there is it healthy? I don't want to know in 6 months. I want to know right now. So what's the real-time issue? And people in general, the quality of their lives depends sometimes on clean air. That's just one example as to how we can use this information. I think we all know that the other issue for technology is getting information about jobs, and that is the future. You hear about tech jobs. Well, everything is tech. It doesn't matter if it's a job in advertising, a job in construction, a job as a teacher. We have to understand how to use this information and all the things that go with AI, meaning artificial intelligence. We've fallen to automation. We used to rely on farming and factory work. We still need to rely on that, but even that has a technology aspect to it. Training for all these jobs. I feel that despite our efforts, we are not, as colleges, as a city, ready for the tech jobs. This whole Amazon debacle, the real problem was the mayor and the governor got together and said, we're going to do this. That's the biggest problem. They should have had a conversation with the library, with the universities, with the community, and then maybe the Amazon would have worked out. Have a conversation. That's a different conversation, that they didn't do that. But even if 25,000 jobs had arrived in New York City, I don't know if we'd be ready for them. Obviously, if they're high powered and making a good salary, we want to be ready for them. We don't want people from other parts of the United States or the world coming to these jobs. We want these jobs. So definitely CUNY is a wonderful place to start, but I also supported something called the Union Square Tech Hub, which will be down on 14th Street. Civic Hall, which is a nonprofit, has partnered with the developer. And my understanding, because I was promised, that this will be a hub for people really wanting to get those kinds of jobs that I just described. And it'll be probably at least 2.5 years by the time the building is built. It's a city-owned land where PC Richards is located now. PC Richards is leaving, and it'll be an office building, but with a big, big focus on free opportunities with Perscolis and Civic Hall and many, many other nonprofits who will train people for real jobs, not made-up jobs. And I have to give Google credit also because as we speak for the last month, and I think it goes till July 1st or a little bit beyond, they have a pop-up, free classes 6 days a week on how to get involved and learn about tech. Now, it's not the kind of work that Civic Hall is going to do because that will be real job focused. But a little bit is going on. Finally, I just want to mention, I think I would consider, and I thank you for those earlier comments, the open data is dealing with a divide because the city is rich in data, 311 data, other kinds of data. It's all on a database because I passed a law and said every city agency, and there are 80 of them, has to put their data in one location. So that's helpful if you're starting a business, if you want to go on what's going on in my neighborhood. But you have to be able to utilize it and understand it. So I'm sure real estate understands it. I'm sure academics understand it because they have the time to sit down and say, okay, you know, here it is with the number of Section 8 units in the neighborhood. Here's a number of rent stabilized, public housing, HDFC. How does that all fit into my neighborhood, right? Who are the jobs? What's the population? We have census coming up, you know. Goodness knows, April 1st, 2020. It's a little scary because that stupid question on the ballot about whether you're a citizen or not. So we have to count. So all of this data is important. The issue is we've been working with a group called Beta NYC in our office. It's a nonprofit to work with the community board members because they need to understand what's in their neighborhood. And I know Polly Spain is here from Board 7. So we've worked hard to say to the community boards, here's the data, and here's how you can peel it back like an onion to know what's going on in your block or your neighborhood, not what's going on further away. Because you want to know about your neighborhood. You don't want to know about somebody else's neighborhood. And then you can plan for your neighborhood. If you know that there's a lot of seniors, a lot of young people, a lot of people don't have jobs, a lot of people have a certain kind of job, but they want to have a better kind of job, then all of that you can work on. But if you don't have the data, how can you work on it? So I think that's an important aspect to understanding the digital divide. The other thing we've been doing is, in Manhattan anyway, we have a problem with faith-based buildings, right? So you have a church, you have a synagogue, you have some mosques, less. Bad news, not a lot of parishioners. So the Catholic Church, Episcopal Church, some of the synagogues are saying, oh, I'm going to hire a developer, I'm going to tear down the church or the synagogue, and we're going to have condos. Well, I hate that. That's me. In any case, we have to know where they are, what's landmarked, what's not, what's an historic district. We're working on that. Again, then we go to the community boards and we say, okay, if you want affordable housing here, you have to work with this religious institution. Sometimes you don't even know, and the next thing you know, it's sold. And that's the end of that. So these are examples of how you can use this data, and I consider that part of the digital divide, because if you don't have the data, the next thing you know, you have a condo with high income and nothing that you want for your neighborhood. So that, to me, is part of the digital divide, because we're not using the data. I'm just here to say thank you very, very much for including me, and what I've tried to do is just to give you the great some of the things that we're working on. Of course, when you talk to high school students and, you know, you try to talk to them about internships or curriculum, the best question is, would you like to have free Wi-Fi in your neighborhood? And then every hand goes up. You know, if you're talking about curriculum, glaze over. But anyway, and that's a goal. I mean, it's something that, again, if we really had fast, free Wi-Fi in every neighborhood, then we wouldn't probably be here today. We'd be thinking of something else to do, but we don't. And so we have to keep working on that also. So thank you very much. Thank you, Stuart. Thank you, Angela. It's an honor to be here. Thank you, Mr. President. I love another president, not that other one. Thank you very much.